to another edition of the Russell K and Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show. Being brought to you this evening by Blue Shamrock Music. A special thank you to Mr. Stephen Brady. And on today's show, we have a special guest, and I cannot wait to meet him and find out a little bit more about him. And again, don't forget, every Wednesday on the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show, we are live from 6:30 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Please tell your family and friends about us. If you're an upcoming, aspiring, and established artist and you're looking for some exposure, check out blueshamrockmusic.com and make sure you reach out to Mr. Stephen Brady. Again, it's your friend Russell K, and we're going to have fun. Now let's go live and meet our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Mr. Steve Sparrow. Hey, Steve, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm great, Russell. Thanks for having me on your show.
We are so excited to have you, and can't wait to have the interview begin here. And so, how you doing today? You doing okay?
Oh, yeah, pretty good. I'm just doing some recording at the moment. It's what I'm spending my day doing today. I've got a recording studio here. Yeah, and so I'm going pretty good.
Well, let's start off with find out a little bit more about you. Can you maybe share with our listeners, how did your music journey begin, and what made you get into music?
Okay, well, so I am a singer-songwriter, country music singer-songwriter, and fairly proficient guitar player. And yeah, I've been recording music on and off for quite some years. And I've just got a new album out at the moment. It's called Now and Forever. And basically, I have a few albums out, as I said. I've been involved in the music industry for many, many years, both as a artist and also a music producer and recording engineer. And I'm also totally blind. So, I was born with no sight. I don't have any light perception or anything like that. So, so it was as a blind person, music just seemed like a good path for me to go down. It just felt sort of pretty right. And I was always sort of into music, and I began playing guitar when I was about 10 or so, and didn't really intend to be a singer at that point, but as soon as you start learning some chords on the guitar, it was just a natural thing to just sort of start singing, So then after that, I joined a couple of country music clubs, and that was pretty good. We got some good experience there, and then started doing some live gigs. I also do a lot of club and pub gigs and stuff like that. So I started doing that in the early 90s, and then I worked with my sister as a duo in a group called the Sparrows, and we had a record contract with Selection Records, which was an Australian label run by a great supporter of Australian country music, a guy called Eric Watson, who's sadly passed on now. But he got behind us and wanted us to record some material, so we did a couple of albums there. And after that, my sister decided to not do music anymore. She was a very good singer, or still is, and she's sort of playing a bit again now. But she decided to take a different path and got into the corporate world, and I followed more of a solo career. And basically, I hadn't written songs for quite a while. I probably spent some years not writing much, so I wasn't really releasing much of my own music in the early 2000s. And I think at one point I sort of thought, well, my writing days are done, and I'm not going to be writing anymore. And it didn't really worry me that much, because I thought, well, okay, I've never worried too much about songwriting, about if I get a song, I get one, or if I don't, I don't worry. Wouldn't call myself a prolific writer, but I can write some pretty good songs, but I don't get that all the time, But about 2012 or 13, I started to write all these songs again. It's like, okay, and then finally got to a point where I had a good bunch of 12 songs. So I put out another solo album, and that was called Paint Your Cactus Green. And now I've released another album. And aside from that, I'm also as I say, very involved in studio work, and I recorded my own music. And I'm also do a bit of mentoring and sort of music teaching to blind people. And basically, what I do is teach them how to do the audio production that that I've been lucky enough to do. So it's like passing on skills, and it's a good little thing to do. And I also work at a radio station myself, so doing production work. So that's basically me in a nutshell. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So tell me more about how you train other fellow musicians who are blind as well. What does that look like, and how do you make that happen?
Okay, so a blind person uses a screen reader on a computer. Basically, it's a software that sits on your computer and changes what you see on the screen into speech. Without that, to a blind person like me, a computer would be about as useless as a chocolate teapot, um, which probably wouldn't be much use, would it really? Because yeah, we can't see the screen, so we don't really use a mouse much. Very little on Windows, especially, and Macs and Windows machines are accessible to blind people. We actually have a lot of accessibility nowadays, like compared to what we used to have. So anyway, without getting off the track, I teach these people how to use audio programs, and some of you audio nuts would know programs like Logic on the Mac, and there's another program called Reaper, and I use Pro Tools as well, and they are audio multi-track programs for recording, recording bands and things like that, making albums. You can do anything with these things if you want to, so I mentor these people, and some of them are blind, some have a little bit of autism, but high functioning, and they need a bit of assistance. And I also pass on my skills as how you operate these things as a blind person, and also, how to record and how to be a good recording engineer and how to be a good music producer and that sort of thing, And the reason
Awesome.
I'll tell you, the reason I mainly specialize in teaching blind people is to do that for a sighted person. Yes, I could pass on the skills of being a producer and all that stuff and basically what to do. But the way you, as a sighted person, use a computer and the way I use one as a blind person is quite different. Like the end result is the same. If I want to check an email or whatever else, or read a Word document, I just open it up. But we do it with the screen reader and keyboard commands instead of using a mouse. So I couldn't tell you how to open an email on your computer. I could tell you how I do it, you know what I mean? But the way a blind person does it is slightly different with shortcuts. And that's why it's easier for me to teach blind people to do this. And there seems to be a lot of interest in it and people who want to do it, you know what I mean? So I want to learn how to be audio. So that's me.
That's awesome, and thank you so much for sharing that. What's the best advice you've ever gotten in the music industry?
Basically, if you're going to go on stage, know your work like the back of your hand. It's like you cannot practice, you cannot practice your songs enough. Like, pardon me, mate. You need to if you're going to go on that stage, you've got to own that stage. You've got to be there, and you've got to and because if you don't, someone else will, and that's what we try to do, I think. But I do tell a lot of people who are getting into it and aren't really practicing that much, I'll say, look, you can do anything you want, but you can't do it if you don't know your work like the back of your hand, so you can do it in your sleep.
Wow, that's awesome. How did you and Blue Shamrock Music connect?
Oh, yeah, well, Stephen Brady, I've been working with Stephen Brady on my music for quite a long time. And they are, yeah, they're a great distributor of all us our country music singles. And yeah, I've known Stephen for quite a long while, some years, maybe 7 or 8 years, and he's always been very helpful to me. And when I was starting to release singles, he gave me quite a bit of advice as to the best way to go about it. And yeah. So he's, I would have to say, if you're looking for advice and stuff like that on how to go about putting your singles out, I found him to be very approachable and really helpful. So yeah, and some of these singles of mine have got quite a bit of airplay that I've put out over the years. One of my singles got to number one in the Country Tracks top. Country Tracks top 40 chart. I think it's called something else now, like Australian Country top 40 chart or something like that. Um, yeah. But yeah, one of my songs got to number one there a few years ago, and I've had another couple of singles released from the current album, which is Now and Forever, which is all, and yeah, they also did really well, and it was really good. I got a lot of airplay with a song called Big Old Land Australia, and which was written by Virginia Hermel Code, who's a great writer here in Australia, and I had another song called American Honey, which was written over a bottle of American honey, and there's an interesting story around that song, but we might get there later. But it's basically a train song. Yeah, but that's
Awesome.
It's a train song written over a bottle of American honey whiskey. But then the new single is called Now and Forever, and I've just released that through Blue Shamrock Music this week. That came out on Tuesday, so it's quite new, and it's good to see a lot of the people are starting to play it. I'm getting sort of quite a few things on Messenger saying, we're playing this thing. So it's just, I'm really pleased that people like what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That's simply amazing. So let's talk, since we're talking about your music, let's dive into
Yeah.
that. So, what does your songwriting look like? And, with your recent album, can you kind of like walk us through the steps of how that all came together for you?
Like how I go about writing a song.
Right. How you came about the songs on the album and how did the album come about?
Well, Now and Forever, which is the current single, it came about. That's really a song that was inspired by my wife Karen, who's an amazing person, and we've been together for about. We've been together for just over 20 years. So it's quite a long time. And I was. Basically, the song actually came about when we went to Tamborine Mountain to buy a cuckoo clock, and it was a bit of an impromptu decision to go and buy a cuckoo clock. We just went for a drive. I think it wasn't long after, we all got out of some of our lockdowns here in Brisbane. I've just got an itchy nose. Sorry, guys. There's not even any flies in here. But and we went to Tamborine Mountain, and there's a clock shop up there, right? And I just said to Karen, I reckon we should buy a cuckoo clock. I often thought about it, so we just went in there and bought one, and I had this idea that after about a week of having the cuckoo clock set up, I had this idea that somewhere in a song I should have the line, "I'm feeling near as cuckoo as the clock there on the wall." And so that line ended up in the first verse. But it's just a song for my lady Karen. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us more about your new album. What are some other songs that really stick out to you?
Oh, there's well, as I say, you've got American Honey, and then there's another song called Big Old Land Australia, which is really a bit of a patriotic song, really, about the wonders of Australia, and the fact that it's a pretty vast sort of place, which it is, and quite a dry country outside of the cities a lot of the time. yeah, very harsh landscape in some parts of Australia, right out back. But where we are, we're in the cities in the east coast, and we have a pretty good climate. We as a moment we're getting stacks of rain and all sorts of stuff. So but yeah, but yeah, so it just talks about that, and then I have another song called "How to Say Goodbye," and that was inspired by a friend of mine who was dealing with some loss at the time. And then there's an instrumental. I've actually put an instrumental on this album. My friend Mark, who's actually here today, helping me with the video and make sure that I've got everything in the right position. Because as I said before, I have no sight. I'm totally blind, so he's sort of assisted me here. But he's also a double bass player, and he is a very good double bass player. We work together quite a bit, and him and I put an instrumental down on this album, and it's basically in the style of a very traditional fingerstyle country guitar player called Mel Travis. And he basically inspired the likes of Chet Atkins and Tommy Emmanuel and all sorts of other people. Yes, and yeah, I try to be pretty versatile in what I do because it's a country album, yeah, but I also like playing blues and bluegrass and all sorts of I mean I love playing sort of the upbeat sort of country stuff. We do a lot with some of the bluegrass jam sessions, and I've really got quite a thing about bluegrass and also blues. I love the blues, bluesy type of sort of stuff. So I tend to incorporate that into a lot of the country music that I play, and some of my other influences, because I listen to all sorts of music. I mean, I'm pretty broad when I'm just listening to music. I mean, I listen to a lot of country, but I don't just listen to country. I listen to anything from country stuff to bluegrass to blues to classical to Led Zeppelin to even some hard rock or metal, or and then some classical stuff and jazz. I'm a big lover of jazz, so I'm quite broad in what I like to listen to, and I think some of those influences come into the country music or the music that I play, and I think it's fine. It's good to be a bit left of centre sometimes. With everyone should have their own little sort of trademark or niche thing that they do, so we all just sound slightly different.
Right. And so if I mention the artist Stevie Wonder, what
Yeah.
what comes to your mind?
Sorry, mate.
Bless you.
Cut that bit out later on if you can. The cough, I mean. But Stevie Wonder is an absolutely incredible musician. Mate, what can you say? He's a blind person, but I listened to a guy, a bluegrass player, talking about Stevie Wonder one time. He was a banjo player, and he said Stevie Wonder and a couple of other people with disabilities are people who their music surpassed their disability. Like basically they were incredible enough that their ability, such a genius was Stevie Wonder, and his music, eclipsed the fact he was blind. It's a bit like, Stevie Wonder. Oh yeah, he's blind. Oh, that's more of a secondary thing, and that's hard to do. Like that, he was an absolute genius, along with Ray Charles and Ronnie Millsap. I think he was blind as well. I'm not sure. He may have had some sight, and all these. They're the three that come to mind. But Ronnie Millsap in the country music industry, I sort of was, a bit sort of poppy too. Great piano player. The only thing I find interesting is I don't know. Then there's Doc Watson, the blind bluegrass guitarist, who is one of my absolute heroes. He is unfortunately passed away now, but he has a lot of early influences from. He started recording in the '60s. And he basically virtually almost single-handedly invented the bluegrass guitar style, the flat pick guitar style that there weren't many people playing lead guitar in bluegrass before Doc Watson.
Wow.
So there were people that would finger pick the guitar, like Earl Scruggs, and Doc does that very well too. He's an incredible finger picker. But he used to he transferred to like fiddle tunes, Doc Watson, onto guitar and flat picked them like a bluegrass player, and then all these other players came. But I don't know anyone who did that before Doc Watson. I'm happy to be corrected, but I don't think there was. Yeah. So he's another blind guy who is an absolute genius.
Wow. So let me ask you this. What is one thing you like the most about the music industry as a whole?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think mainly the fact that you really have to know what you want to focus on, you know, and if you can work out what you actually want to do, then try to do it well, because it's the only way you're going to sort of get anywhere, you know, because there's so many people in the music industry, and there are um, millions of people who are great in the music industry, and I think the ones that do well are the ones that really focus in on what they think they can achieve. So with me, it's always been playing live music and recording, and a bit more recently teaching and mentoring. You know, and that's what I try to do, and you basically try to promote my music. The whole thing is just trying to focus on what you think that you're best at, and really work on that, you know, and excel at it if you can. I got that also from Tommy Emmanuel. You know, he was very big on that. I mean, Tommy. I don't know if you know Tommy Emmanuel, but he is pretty big in America. He lives in America, Tommy, and he said you never give up, and always try to give like 150%, you know. And he did. He played guitar like that was all he did all his life, is play guitar for like 15 hours a day, you know. And that's why he's so brilliant. But go and have a listen to some Tommy Emmanuel, because he's an incredible guitar player, and that's how we got that good, by just never giving up.
Yeah, that's amazing advice, and thank you for sharing that. Now, if you had one thing to change about the music industry, what would that be and why?
Oh, I haven't really thought about it, mate. You know, I might. No, look, I'm going to. I'm just gonna. I might just sort of pass on that. I don't know. I'd have to give it some thought. You know,
Okay, no problem. So, when you're not doing music, what is some of your hobbies do you like to do?
um. Oh, so yeah, I really like doing a bit of fishing and stuff, and I go out with some friends quite a bit. And as I also started a couple of years ago, I got into a bit of a fitness thing, and yeah, I did some jiu-jitsu training, and
Oh,
that was
wow.
pretty interesting. Well, as a blind person, that was pretty interesting, because I'd done some. How it happened was I'd done some shows for this jiu-jitsu club for their annual party, you know, at Christmas time, and I got talking to the guy there, the Hanshi, who's the top sort of guy on any jiu-jitsu sort of uh, organization. And I said to him, "Oh, I wouldn't mind having a go at this." And I said, "I'm not sure if it's something the blind person could sort of do." And he said to me, "Oh, well, if you want to do it, then let me know, and I'll modify the program for you." Which he did. And so I did a lot more sort of one-on-one sort of training than trying to do it in a group, which wouldn't have really worked, because I can't just sort of see what the you know dude up the front's doing. you know.
Yeah.
So it was basically like I'd work one on one with someone, and they would basically explain to me what they wanted done, and a lot of it had to be physically shown how to execute all the exercises and the moves. A lot of it was just no, do it this way or that way, but sometimes those moves can be quite complicated. The way if you get into different holds and stuff. So we had to go through it sort of bit by bit, And that's how I learned a lot of the hold positions and defence things. And it was I think they enjoyed it too. It was a different. I'm not doing that at the moment, but I probably will go back to it. I've just been busy doing a lot of other things. And then, of course, it's my family. So I've had my wife, Karen, as I said before, and my son, Craig, who's now 18. And he's just going pretty well. He's got an apprenticeship as a glazier, a glass cutter. So that's pretty good. He's finding his way in life. So, yeah, we like to catch up with a lot of different friends and do a bit of travelling and see different places. And yeah, I don't think I have a bad life, really.
That's awesome. So let's go on stage. All right, we're gonna take you on stage now. So
Okay.
do you have any pre-event rituals that you go through prior to going live on stage?
Uh, Not really, but well, I mean, I wouldn't say rituals, but there's you just sort of. It just depends. If it's like if it's like a really important show, like then yeah, you can sometimes get a bit nervous, a little bit, but you just go, oh well. But I think that's sort of good sometimes. A lot of the time, as long as it doesn't take people over, it can be quite debilitating for a lot of people. But no, it's good to have a little bit of a few butterflies sometimes in the stomach. But yeah, so if it's a music festival, I really what I tend to do beforehand, if it's something like that, you're sort of in the crowd, sort of trying to talk to people and doing a bit of networking, and you might maybe run through a song or something before you just go on stage, and then you just get up there and sort of do it pretty much, and then afterwards, hopefully you can sell some albums and CDs and you know and talk to a few people, make a few new friends, and that's pretty well. And then if I'm doing a pub or a club gig, then I've got to set my PA up, and I have an assistant that comes with me to do that because I can't do that as a blind person. Well, I can set the PA up, but what I can't do is I can't. It's too difficult to lug it into a venue because I don't really know the venue. It's not like a place I work every day. They're always different places. So I really much easier to take someone with me. And yeah, and sometimes my wife comes and with me, and other times I get other people to come and do like support work sort of thing. But yeah, and that's pretty well that really, I think.
So let me ask you this: now that you're on stage, you're live on stage. What are some of the tricks you use to help you to read a crowd to see if they're really getting into your music?
Yeah, so I can't obviously see them, you know. So, but I do find I get energy from the crowd, and you get sort of feedback from just the way they respond to different things, and you can tell when a crowd's really into something, and you can tell sort of when they're not. So generally, I'll have a set list, but if it looks like the crowd are sort of going, it depends where it is. If it's like a music festival, I generally stick to what I'm doing, because you might change slightly, but yeah, you know what I mean. But if it's like a pub or a club gig, then you might try and tailor your show towards the audience a bit more because you're really there not to be. It's not a concert. Then it's not like doing a concert where they've just come to see you in a club. They've come. Hopefully they might enjoy what you do, but if it's just a club, that might be just like a sort of pub, where people have just come out for a night out, and then they're sort of if you do good music, they'll get into it, yeah, but they haven't come specifically to see an entertainer. So I might tailor the show a bit more and have less. Set list will be a bit looser there. But reading the crowd as a blind person is sometimes it's hard to do, especially if you get a crowd that aren't really audibly making much interest, but they might be visually, tapping along and visually showing that they are enjoying it. I'll miss that bit, but a lot of the time it's pretty easy to work out. yeah, you just sort of feel their energy, and yeah, gauge the reaction and get some vibes off them. Yeah, they send energy back to you as well.
Awesome. How can our listeners get in contact with you and also to get in contact with your amazing music?
Well, I've got a website. Well, they can get on contact. So if you can send me an email to steve@sparrowsound.com.au. I'll give you that again. So steve@sparrowsound, one word, steve@sparrowsound.com.au. And also, I've got a website, steve@sparrowmusic. That's all the W's, and steve@sparrowmusic.com.au. And normally you can buy the music in the shop, which is on the site, but it's down for a few days while we're sort of constructing it again, because, yeah, I'm just trying to revamp things a bit. But that'll be up again in a few days' time. My music's also available on all those digital streaming platforms that we tend to all use these days, Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and Amazon, all those other. It's even on TikTok if you really want it.
Now TikTok is up and coming now. Come on now.
Oh yeah, what if they?
As we wind down our interview this evening, first and foremost, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you and have such an amazing conversation with you. Find out a little bit more about your amazing journey, which leads me to my next question. With your amazing journey in the music industry, are there any like amazing memories that really stand out to you? If so, which one or ones are they, and why are they so important to you?
Well, one of the most amazing things that ever happened to me was I got to record John English.
Oh wow,
Have you guys heard of John English over there?
yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Aussie, yeah, actor and singer, uh, and this was in 2008. And a friend of mine, I was recording an album for a guy, and this guitar player who was in his band uh, was also the guitar player for John English, or one of them. There, you had three guitar players. John English did. Um, and anyway, he convinced John English to come down to my studio and do a backing session, put some harmonies down for this guy, which he did, So John English rocks up on 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And my mate Stretch, who was the guy who knew him, was in his band, introduced John English around. And John English said, oh, yeah, no worries at all. And he said, well, I've got to do a bit of a quick vocal warm up first, I went, oh, this will be interesting. And I expected him to do some sort of vocal exercise, and he says, you realise that's a cup of your black coffee and 3 of my cigarettes. And I went, oh, right, okay. So I made him a coffee, and he had these really strong cigarettes, and and he basically did that outside on my patio, and came in and ripped out some contortionist vocals, and it was pretty wild session.
I can imagine. Wow. Any other
Yeah.
memories for you?
Huh?
Any other memories?
Oh, look, I was very lucky that a lot of country music people helped me out when I was in my teenage years and earlier, and trying to get into music. And as I got into my 20s, they helped me start my recording studio. It's called Sparrow Sound Studio. And so I record my own stuff sometimes, but I spend more time recording stuff for clients and other people, and yeah, and people like Desiree Crawford and Eric Watson, and a lot of the country music clubs. I was just so pleased that they were able to give me their advice and their skills, and there was a lot of really good memories there in those early days when we had a lot of a good bunch of kids with us in all those country music clubs, and we all competed on music festivals together, and country music competitions, and we all had a lot of fun back in those days, and we all learned our craft as well. So yeah, it was just such a really good time of my life.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And as we wind down our show right now, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Uh, yeah. Well, you can go and check out my music because
Yeah,
I'd love you to check it out. But oh no, look, I'm just really enjoying getting some new music out there and putting some new singles out. It's just a lot of fun, and I guess, like I said before, if you think you got some talent in, it doesn't really even have to be music, but it can be whatever area you want. But if you're feeling that you uh, are a bit too afraid to take the leap and just sort of do it, if you think what you have is good, just get out there and give it a go, because the worst that can happen is that it doesn't work and you don't get any, so they don't get, you don't get anywhere or whatever. But, you know, does that really matter? You had to go, and the good chance is that if it's good, that you could really do some, achieve some big things that'll probably, you know, make you happy.
that's awesome. That's amazing advice. And my friend, much success as you continue your amazing career in the music industry. And thank you for making music great. And thanks for sharing the memories with us here on the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show, which is brought to you by Blue Shamrock Music. And Mr. Stephen Brady's in the house. So thank you again. And again, we're definitely going to come back with you for a second interview. I just love
Yeah.
talking to you. We just ran out of time this evening, but
Well, like, mate,
I could talk to you forever.
I wanted to say thank you to you as well, Russell, for having me on your show. And it's great to get to uh, some different people, like in the States over there, and wherever people are streaming this. I'll just say good day to all you guys as well, because it's just really nice to talk to some people in all different parts of the world. And thanks, Russell, for the opportunity.
Oh, you're more than welcome, my friend. And there will be a part two.
And if you didn't get it, I don't know if I mentioned at the start. I'm actually, well, as you can tell by my accent, I'm from Australia, but we're from Brisbane in Queensland. I don't know if Queensland, state of Queensland, and the capital city, Brisbane. Yeah. So if I didn't say that at the start, I just said it now.
I keep on telling Steven, to put me on his budget because I want to come up to Australia. And we want to do a Music Dreams USA Radio artist spotlight show where we get all the artists that we interviewed and bring them all together and put on one big crazy concert and stream live. So that's something we that we certainly want to do. So keep that in mind, my friend.
Well, do you know what? It's with technology now. It's so much easier to that's so doable, like you can do. It's so great that we can connect that way now, because that was really hard before the internet,
Right.
before the likes of all these things like Zoom and the one you're using here today, that just to stream with. It's great that we can all connect that way, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm up for
definitely.
it, mate. Count me in if you want to do that.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when.
Okay.
All right, my friend. Well, again, thank you so much for your time this evening. It was so nice to meet you, and thank you for sharing your memories.
No worries, Russell. Good on you.
All right. That was Mr. Steve Sparrow. And again, special thank you to Blue Shamrock Music and Mr. Stephen Brady, who supplies our artists each and every week. Again, you are watching the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show, which can be seen every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. And again, thank you so much for watching. Those of you watching now that will be watching a little bit later on. Until next week, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening. And thank you again to Blue Shamrock Music. Take care, everyone. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.